Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to and thank you for joining the IAB Europe's first virtual programmatic day of 2022. My name is Nick Welsh, and I head up programmatic and publisher development at Integral Ad Science. But I'm also the chair of the IAB Europe Programmatic Trading Committee, which is a multi-stakeholder group that aims to increase understanding of the programmatic ecosystem, the impact it has on digital advertising, and hopefully to influence the industry via initiatives. As most of you all know, IAB Europe is the European level association of the digital marketing and advertising ecosystem, and through its membership of national IABs and media, technology and marketing companies, its mission is to lead political representation and promote industry collaboration across Europe. And one of the ways in which we do this is by bringing people together through events such as this initiative, the IAB's Virtual Programmatic Day. And I just want to thank every single one of you for joining. I also want to highlight that IAB Europe and I are very grateful to have our sponsors for this event, Quantcast and Yield Love, who obviously their sponsorship helped make this event possible. And we can say confidently that the Virtual Programmatic Day is one of the largest virtual events in not just the programmatic industry, but the digital advertising industry as a whole. And unlike many other virtual events, this isn't pre-recorded. So we are live. Please excuse any errors or mistakes. But thank you for joining and taking time out of your busy schedule. So we'll make sure that we reward you, hopefully, with some really informative and fantastic sessions. Today, we've got a stellar lineup of speakers, moderators and panelists across 6 sessions that will discuss everything from the programmatic landscape in Europe, identity and privacy, CTV developments, to diversity and inclusion, and exciting things to look forward to in the future. All of the speakers you'll be hearing from today are members of IAB Europe, so we're very fortunate to have the very best leaders in our industry take part in our events and join our initiatives. And of course, if you want more information on how to get involved in future events or on IAB membership, please contact either Lauren, Marie Claire. Okay, so before we kick off, we'd love to know who is joining us from across Europe and beyond today. So please let us know in the chat what stakeholder group you belong to, and also by taking part in our poll. And as if by magic, it should appear on your screen now. Fantastic. Okay, so whilst you complete the poll, I just want to highlight that we want to encourage audience participation throughout the event, and each panel will be followed by an audience Q&A. So if you have questions for today's panelists, you'll be pleased to know that you can submit them in the Q&A box at the bottom of the Zoom window during the panel. Okay. And thank you for completing the poll. The results are in. Awesome, welcome to everyone. And now on to our first session, a keynote presentation from Tom Suttle, who is the Senior Digital Advertising Analyst at IAB Europe, on the programmatic ecosystem, new partnerships and the future. Over to you, Tom.
Good morning, thanks, Nick. Just share my screen. Right, morning. Yeah, hello everyone. Really excited to be here today talking to you about the key trends affecting the programmatic ecosystem for now and in the future. As you can see, new partnerships being forged and changes in the way that programmatic is being bought. Yeah, so my name is Tom Suttle. I'm Senior Digital Advertising Analyst here at the IAB Europe, so I'm focused largely on ad spend, but also how the money flows and what are the key trends that we see in the digital ad ecosystem. So just to start off with a macro look at the digital advertising industry, you can see these are the growth forecasts for 2022 by ad format. And you can see we're actually forecasting strong growth across all formats, led by retail media, which you can see with really huge growth expectations of over 50% year on year this year. CTV continues to be, of course, a hot topic and one of the topics today, growing very strongly, and audio. And you can see programmatic a little bit further down, growth expectations of 19.4% in 2022, following a really strong year in 2021, and it continues to be growing fastly. And just to highlight that further, you can see this is the European top line macro view of the programmatic ad spend. So you can see it's actually doubled from 2017 to 2021. So even outside of these other formats and platforms, programmatic ad spend, this is excluding any social spend, continues to be in really strong shape. And we're actually you can see 2021 is still a forecast. We're in the process here of compiling the 2021 numbers, which will be presented at Interact, which is happening later this month. We'll be presenting the latest ADEX study. So I hope to see some of you there. Of course, have to quickly mention inflation. Inflation continues to rise, which will be impacting, of course, on the cost of living. But the ad market, the digital ad market, continues to be quite buoyant. We saw, during the pandemic that the digital advertising spend was decoupled from GDP growth, whereas historically GDP and digital ad spend were in line with each other. We've seen digital ad spend obviously continue to grow at a fast rate, despite the headwinds happening at that macroeconomic level. So diving a bit deeper into programmatic in general, you can see that the cookieless world will be built on many pillars, right? So you can see here from contextual-based solutions down to the individual-based solutions. And you can see here, obviously in the middle, such like publisher solutions. And we believe that all of these solutions have a role to play in the future of the digital advertising. And the M&A market is also a place where we can look at to make big bets on how identity will develop in the future. You can see that this is a summary of M&A activity in 2021 in the identity space. 2021 was a bumper year in ad tech mergers and acquisitions, the biggest on record. And a lot of those acquisitions were happening in identity and privacy, and many of those being first-party data and contextual-based solutions. So they give us a good indication of how the market is developing. And what we see with first-party data is there's the ability is unevenly distributed among advertisers, right? So these emojis show you, how basically how best placed an advertiser is in terms of their first-party data is how close they are to the transaction, right? So retail, as an example, has a lot of transactional data, very close to the consumer, therefore they are in a strong position in terms of first-party data. Whereas CPGs, who are of course often selling a lot of their goods via retail, lack that dependable playbook. And I guess we really encourage advertisers to continue to design experiences where consumers actively consent to sharing data with that clear value exchange. It obviously leaves advertisers best prepared for the future. And interestingly, we're seeing buyers moving to fewer direct programmatic relationships. So this shows you the average number of DSPs used by buyers has been reducing over time, which of course is a sign of maturity in the market, with certain clear winners in the DSP world winning out with more dependable tech and efficient buying routes. And interestingly, DSP SSP relationships are often commoditized. So this shows you how many SSPs the DSP is buying through. You can see the biggest percentage on the left-hand side, 64%, is 7 or more DSPs. So this means that there are very few unique sources of inventory being bought by programmatic. And we can also see in some of the most recent acquisitions, which I touched upon, but also launches and partnerships, are showing a significant shift in the way value is being seen in the industry. So we saw Magnite buying Carbon, Triple Lift, of course, buying 1+X. The growing rise of marketplaces, of course, GroupM Marketplace being the biggest example of that, providing scaled access to premium inventory. And of course, one of the big developments has been the Trade Desk launching OpenPath, providing advertisers with direct access to premium publisher direct inventory. And we're seeing programmatic ad spend move to more closed paths, right? This is what these things are leading to. An example here shows you, and of course the data is anonymized, but this shows you where a market participant has an SSP and a DSP, what percentage of the buying goes through the DSP's buying goes through their own SSP, right? And we can see, while it does really vary from the 5 players you can see here, the algorithms tend to favor their own SSP, right? So, which means that the spend is moving to fewer and fewer paths. And you can see that visualized here. So amidst all the privacy, innovation and pressure and business model changes, the share of programmatic ad spend going via the open ecosystem here at the IAB Europe, we're projecting to reduce in the next few years. Of course, the Trade Desk being a big part of that, but also the aforementioned reduction in paths that we're seeing. And this quite big chart is alluvial chart. It shows you, this is an example of one car brand buying on one single publisher. You can see historically buying through many different paths, just one brand and one publisher. Obviously, you won't be able to see the detail here, but this is the buy seats, DSPs, and SSPs being bought. So we're seeing similar ads being bought in many, many different ways before, right, to reach the same destination. But we are starting to see that to change. We're also seeing a fragmentation of silos. This decentralization, media adoption, of course, these silos existing within programmatic, which of course provide challenges. And you can see that further here, right? This is the walled gardens and walled hedges. You can see new ones emerging in CTV, retail media, which of course will provide challenges. Historically, we've seen lots of acquisitions in technology space, tech being brought into the walled gardens, and I suspect we'll start to see that happen again in the future. But it's not all bad. There are, of course, within that, there are opportunities, right? Opportunities for efficiency, opportunities for new partnerships and ways of working. And retail media is one such example of that. It's already briefly mentioned that, but of course, this is brands utilizing retailers' first-party data to buy programmatically. Not, of course, retail media represents both on-site happening in retailers, but also off-site buying, utilizing that data. And you can see the market is growing at incredibly fast pace. And we saw in 21 a real raft of launches or relaunches of the retail media offerings of retailers. So you can see examples here from the UK of Tesco, Sainsbury's launching retail media offerings, France, so the likes of Casino Group, Carrefour relaunching their Carrefour Links in 2021. And that's led to an emerging ecosystem of ad tech in retail media, which we're seeing. We saw Criteo, of course, increasingly focused on retail media as a shift in their business model. Citrus Ads was purchased by Publicis last year as they continue to focus on opportunities in the commerce space. And this offsite retail media generates a new programmatic opportunity. So you can see this is the share of retail media spend happening on a retailer's website versus off. And as you can see, we're projecting that to the offsite to increase over the next few years. So thank you. That was a real brief overview of some of the key changes happening in programmatic at the moment. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.
Cheers, Tom. Thank you for sharing those insights. I mean, it's great to see how programmatic industry is thriving, and seeing the kind of the emergence of retail media is super exciting.